And we continue at 1:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's here in the state of California.
John, I have yet another use for my favorite drop from KTVU's Henry Lee.
It's happened yet again.
For the fifth time this year, there's been a major disruption in BART service.
You don't say.
It's happened yet again.
800-222-5222 is telephone number 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is an attorney and businessman who ran for the U.S. Senate back in 2024 against Adam Schiff, who eventually won the seat, and a group of others, including Steve Garvey and former Orange County Congresswoman Katie Porter, who is now running for governor. You can get him online at ericearly.com and follow him on X at ericearly_CA. Eric Early, welcome.
Always great being with you, John.
You know, Eric, you were on this program during that campaign, and you responded to whatever it was that Katie Porter did at that time that was raising a bunch of eyebrows. And you came on and you said that you believed that she was bipolar. And I think that fell, unfortunately, in that particular race on deaf ears. But you were saying the truth that the rest of the world now seems to fully understand today. But you were saying that a long time ago.
Well, thanks for remembering that, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, listen, I'm no psychiatrist, but I was following her and what she was doing and her history of just over-the-top and unhinged acts. And it was clear to me in my sort of, pop psychiatrist way, the woman's bipolar. She's nuts. I knew about her being accused by her ex-husband under oath of dropping a pot of boiling potatoes on her head. I knew at that time about her former staffers all calling her and talking about how abusive she was. And, you just watched her general conduct. Katie Porter is unhinged, and thankfully that stuff is finally coming out.
Could you imagine a scenario where she becomes the CEO of the state of California and no budget can go through without her signing off on it? No one could sit as a judge in California. No new appointee could successfully take the bench without her signing off on it. Can you imagine that nightmare scenario?
Well, John, unfortunately I can, because we've been living through much like that for the last 7 or so years. I'm not sure that Newsom is bipolar, but I absolutely believe he's a sociopath. So we've been living through a nightmare scenario in many ways, and that's led to the destruction of our once great and golden state of California. And, getting back to Porter, I think the big question is who has been pushing the buttons with the mainstream media and so much of the media to finally get this news out to all the people? Because, as you said, when I was running against her for Senate, there was a blanket. The media put its blanket over getting the news out. And so we have to question now and it's got to be somebody on the other side who's running against her or thinking about running against her that the media actually likes, and suddenly that information's coming out.
Well, it just goes to show you how rigged everything is in terms of how the news reports on these races. Because you were a candidate in that race, you were making a claim that turns out to be true. At that time, for those who were paying attention to it, it was deemed to be not worthy of coverage or sexist or whatever. And now everyone is saying what you had been saying, and it's just taken for granted that the point was obvious. And it's so similar to what happened with Joe Biden in the cognitive decline, where a handful of people were acknowledging reality and saying, look, this guy has lost it. This guy does not have all of his mental faculties. Look at how he looks today, how he sounds today compared to where he was 5 years ago. It's not the same person. And that was called right-wing conspiracy theory. And then when he became the nominee and then he had that awful debate, it was, oh my God, it's obvious to anyone who's paying attention. And it just goes to show you what kinds of games are played in these campaigns where you could be telling the truth. And if the PAC isn't saying the same thing as you, you're dismissed and you're attacked. And a valid claim is just ignored or used as an opportunity to attack the person who's saying it.
No doubt. Listen, John, for many years I've been saying a lot of things well in advance of them sort of becoming accepted by or coming out into the public eye. And I've been attacked left, right, and center for so long, largely, I think, because, I've been known as a Trump supporter for a number of years now in our state and among the media. And, the media is largely based and filled with people with a terrible case of Trump derangement syndrome. So anybody who supports Trump in any way, shape, or form, certainly several years ago when he was even more despised than he is now by that group, would be attacked as well. So, yes, the system is incredibly rigged, and that's how, for example, these people who have been in control of our state now for many years, this Democrat cabal, and they call themselves Democrat, but frankly they're socialists. Many of them are American Marxists. That's how they get away with it, because they have complete cover by a rigged system.
We're speaking with Eric Early, who you can follow on X at @EricEarly_CA. Eric, you also came on this program when you ran for Attorney General against Rob Bonta, who eventually went on to win that office, that he didn't have the ethical mettle to be an Attorney General in California, to be the top law enforcement officer in this state. Since you made that claim, there have been arrests in Oakland, not just involving the top campaign contributors to his campaigns back when he was an assemblyman in Oakland and for other offices later on, but the sitting mayor of Oakland, Sheng Tao, who is also a recipient of that same campaign cash, she is now facing federal charges. Is that another example?
Oh, 100%. Listen, I wouldn't trust Rob Bonta as far as I could throw him. And that includes his wife, Mia Bonta, as well, who's a state assemblywoman. These people are as corrupt as the day is long. You mentioned Sheng Tao, the former mayor of Oakland. She was run out of office because she was indicted for this huge amount of money she and the people she knows was taken from a very wealthy Vietnamese businessman who, oh, by the way, has for years been incredibly close to Rob Bonta and Mia Bonta, both of whom also came out of that Oakland cesspool up there, that political cesspool up there. Bonta, the minute Sheng Tao went down, Bonta has done his best to distance himself from the Vietnamese businessman. But I believe those chickens are going to come home to roost. And there's all kinds of other things out there and allegations about Bonta and his wife over the years. And yet, in this lovely state of California these days, Rob Bonta is the chief legal officer and law enforcement officer in the state. Remarkable.
Do you think that's the reason he didn't run for governor? Because everyone expected him to run. And now that we've seen Kamala Harris take a pass on that race and Katie Porter implode, there certainly is room for more candidates in that race. Yet this guy, who has always wanted to be governor and was certainly setting himself up to be governor, and there's no better launching pad to be a candidate for governor than to be attorney general in California, he took a pass without really giving an explanation that made sense.
That's a great question, John. At the time he took the pass, everybody was saying Kamala Harris is going to get in the race. So it sort of made sense at that point that he wasn't going to get in because he didn't want to go up against her. But you're right. She then decided not to get in. Porter is imploding. Bonta never changed his tune. And listen, to the extent, and if the day ever comes that Rob Bonta is put up against serious scrutiny and a serious look from most of the media, he would not be able to survive it. So I would not be surprised if that is one of the main reasons why he not only did not get in originally and why he doesn't seem to be getting in now.
We're speaking with Eric Early, who you can find online at ericearly.com. Eric, voters in California are filling out their ballots right now as we speak on Proposition 50. This, of course, is the initiative that Gavin Newsom wants. He believes that it will help propel him to the Democratic nomination for president if he can show to Democratic voters that he's willing to take Donald Trump on every opportunity he has. It's a weird argument that he's making, where the districts in California are drawn up by an independent commission. He's saying Prop 50 is necessary to save democracy. So in order to save democracy, you have to give him the ability to rig elections. This move, of course, started the dominoes falling, where after Gavin Newsom said that he was going to move forward with Prop 50, other states have now said, well, if he's going to redraw his lines, we're going to redraw our lines. So instead of the Democrats losing a handful of seats from the state of Texas, it now looks like they could lose double-digit seats across the United States, even accounting for Proposition 50 passing in California, with the Democrats drawing themselves 5 new seats here. Do you see Proposition 50, assuming that it will pass, although that remains to be seen? Do you think that will end up helping Gavin Newsom, or do you think that there's a level of resentment that will build against him for starting this arms race that's going to result in Democrats losing more seats than they otherwise would?
Another great question, John. I think with the unhinged group that controls so much of the Democrat Party these days, they get very excited when they see anybody fighting Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form. So from that standpoint, Newsom has grown a certain amount of support. But I think for the most part, around the country, when the time comes that Newsom will be running for president, and, you know, he started that campaign years ago, but officially makes it known, I believe that as many people in the country who already despise Newsom because they know what he's done to our once and future great state of California, I think this effort by him on Proposition 50 will further undermine him when he's officially running for president. And talk about just outrageous. You know, he runs around, he's quote unquote fighting for democracy, right, John? And yet he has presided over the state in the Union, California, that has had one-party rule now going on for almost 2 decades. And any time there's any effort to try and to break that logjam among the statewide electeds who have been all Democrat for years and the supermajority of Dems who control the legislature, Newsom goes haywire. He'll do anything he can to prevent that. So on the one hand, he has been presiding over the equivalent of a North Korea-style government, and on the other hand, he's all out there fighting for democracy.
What's wild to me is that he is telling the national Democrats that California is a success story, and they seem to be believing him. When I talk to friends who live in other states about Gavin Newsom, and they talk about what an impressive candidate they regard him as, and I ask them, well, what about his performance? What about his track record? What about his portfolio, his resume? And they say, oh, he's got a great portfolio. And I said, well, what about crime in California? Well, the stats show it's going down. Well, what about homelessness? Well, the stats show it's going down. What about the bullet train? Well, it's Trump's fault. Trump is pulling the funding. Trump's the reason why the bullet train's not running. What about the budget? Oh, he says the budget's fine. And they seem to believe all of this hook, line, and sinker. And his portrayal of the state is in no way related to reality. Does this put a responsibility on the shoulders of people like you and me and others who live here, who know what reality is, to tell the truth when this guy runs for president?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, you're highlighting one of the great problems of the day, which is that you can be in a state like California, which is a failure by any measure, and yet when you combine a sociopath, a talented sociopath like a Newsom, with 95% of the media that will support him, you have people all around the country and a majority of the electorate in California who buys into that stuff. So yes, it is our responsibility to constantly do everything we possibly can to to educate, awaken, and let the people of America know we can never end up and must never end up with a nightmare like Newsom as president.
The cognitive dissonance is wild to me because I know people, some of these people who live in other states used to live here, but they moved out of California because of the crime and the homelessness and the crappy schools and the cost of living and everything that we deal with on a daily basis here. And they voted with their feet. They moved to some other place. They moved to Arizona. They moved to Nevada. They moved to wherever. And now that they've been gone for a period of time, they just buy right back into that Kool-Aid that everything's fine here. And they forgot
John,
everything that they saw.
I'll tell you, that's one of the biggest objections you hear from people in red states such as Idaho, Montana, Tennessee, etc., where Texas, where escapees from California are going, is the ones that then escape and go there and keep voting exactly like they were voting when they were in California. And it is remarkable. I'm not saying everybody that escapes. There's so many great people that get out and know what created California. But it is amazing how many people currently living in California and that whole group we were just describing who've moved out, who have no clue that it was their votes and it was the politics of the places they've come from and are going to that have created really the destruction of California that we've been living through now.
When you ran for Attorney General of California, I'm sure you asked yourself the question, okay, what kind of problems are we facing here? What skill set do I have? How can I contribute to make the situation better? And I would imagine that you spent a lot of time thinking about that and you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears towards answering that question. Let's just assume that people who have their heads screwed on straight end up winning some of these offices. Given the current state of where we are today here in California, how long do you think it would take to try to get us on the right path? Do you think it's broken so badly we're talking about generations to fix? Or do you think if you got the right cadre of people, the right group of people in there, that we could fix this thing relatively quickly?
The right group in there could start turning things around quickly. It will take some time. It will not be easy, even assuming people like us do get elected to these major offices. It won't be easy because there is a huge entrenched sort of far-left group that is, they're not the ones that are elected. They're the ones that are employed in the Department of Justice in California and in the executive branch offices and all the various divisions, et cetera. But we get a Republican governor in there, oh my God, things could be changed. Start changing for the better so quickly with emergency orders, throwing out so much of this poison that has come down the last several years. We get a Republican in the Attorney General's office. So many huge things could be done immediately to start looking at, for example, so many of the laws that have come down through the Newsom administration that are flat out unconstitutional. Yes, so if we could manage to get great people elected, things could start changing right away, and it would just be, I mean, John, can you imagine what a breath of fresh air it would be for people of all walks of life in California again if we could finally get back control of what's been going on up there for so long?
Eric Early. You can get him online at ericearly.com and follow him on X at ericearly_CA. Eric, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks again for having me.
It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, now that we're hitting the halfway point of today's show, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
Like, let's say you just heard that last interview and like, who's this Katie Porter person everyone's talking about? Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts and search for any episode with the title Katie Porter in it, and you'll learn a whole lot.
Get out of my shop.
The Fix California Hour continues in moments. Don't you go anywhere. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. And right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
Ay, no.
And Randy, the first edition takes us to Oakland.
Somebody in the Rock Ridge neighborhood of Oakland is throwing rocks at people.
Sometimes your name is your destiny.
They're throwing them at houses. They're throwing them at cars. Watch out for rocks in Rock Ridge. For more, here's KPIX.
Someone has been walking around an East Bay neighborhood.
What is with their evening news music?
Sounds like it's at a disco.
Someone has been walking around an East Bay neighborhood throwing rocks seemingly at random into whatever kind of window they run into, and then they seem to just run away. You can imagine.
Maybe they're inspired by Shohei.
You can imagine if this were happening to you and you were footing the bill to fix it, you would be mad, very mad. Not to mention the fact that some of these incidents could have hurt someone badly. This is happening in the Rock Ridge neighborhood of Oakland. And yes, Rock Ridge, the irony is not lost on us.
Glad you pointed that out.
She caught it too.
But the neighbors are fed up, and Andrea Nakano tells us they're banding together to do what they can to stop it.
I'm going to guess that's not calling OPD.
Why would you bother?
Driving down the streets just north of Highway 24 in the Rock Ridge community, you can see boarded up windows scattered in the neighborhood. It was just 3 weeks ago when a rock came flying through the window of Luis Aguirre's home.
We were literally just sleeping, and at 6 a.m. we got rudely awakened at 6 in the morning with a fat rock thrown through our window.
A fat rock.
I could sympathize with the guy because I have one of those new freezers at my house. And if you're a Scotch drinker, you not only like ice in your drink, if you're like me, but you like ice that's one big block as opposed to just the cubes that you get that the freezer makes. So this one makes big balls of ice, and it makes 3 a day. But when it makes one of those balls of ice, it sounds like a rock is going through a window.
You know what it sounds like with this neighborhood in Oakland? It sounds like when Johnny's golfing.
Thankfully, no one was hurt, but he says if it happened any later, either him or his daughter would have been watching TV that Saturday morning.
He could have been sitting there eating his Rice Krispies, watching his Saturday morning cartoons, and a rock goes right through his living room.
Hazardous to your health.
After the incident, he shared what happened on social media.
We wanted to tell our neighbors, right, make sure that they were aware that this happened. We reached out to anyone who had any footage. That was like our immediate, just trying to track down who did this, what motivation did they try and do.
Aguirre also put up...
I don't know if there's much of a motive to a crazy guy throwing rocks.
Imagine this guy sitting in his easy chair watching TV. Then there's an ad featuring Tom Steyer arguing on behalf of Prop 50, and he throws up his hands at the TV and he says, we need Prop 50 like I need a rock to the head.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
Aguirre also put up security cameras to hopefully catch the man responsible. Within days, the next incident happened.
That was a big one.
Yeah, no kidding. That sounded like a brick.
This time, a rock shattered a window of his car.
And we got footage.
So first, his home gets a rock thrown at it. Now his car gets a rock thrown at it. What did this guy do?
I wonder if he has a birdhouse.
And we got footage of the individual who did it, and just aimlessly walking in the middle of the street, just stopped and threw the rock at our car.
Other residents have captured footage of the suspect as well and have posted these flyers of a man wearing red sweatpants all throughout this neighborhood. They say they've...
So he's easy to spot.
You know what it sounds like? It sounds like Ernest T. Bass from the Andy Griffith Show.
They say they've experienced crime in this area, but this feels different.
Seeing stuff like this, even though it feels like it's less malicious and more, maybe something else is going on with this individual, it still makes me feel anxious.
Aguirre.
I mean, it sounds pretty malicious. A guy who's destroying all the windows in the entire neighborhood.
Yeah, how are you supposed to drive a car without a windshield?
Aguirre says once he posted what happened at his house, more and more of his neighbors have come forward to share similar stories. Many are sharing information and videos, hoping to put an end to the chaos.
Well, I'm constantly like anxious in any sound I hear. Now it's like, all right, what was that? Like, it's definitely shaking up our peace of mind a little.
This guy's got a little PTSD.
Yeah, I can tell.
Shaking up our peace of mind a little bit, but we know it's not like, a widespread, like, theft, crime issue, right? It definitely feels like it's just one individual who's very disturbed, and yeah, we're just hoping to get some support to track him down and hopefully get it to stop.
We reached out to Oakland police to ask them to tell us anything they could about a potential investigation into these incidents, but they have not yet gotten back to us.
They put KPIX on hold.
Well, here's the problem. Catching this guy will do nothing to stop this, because what do you think the odds are they're going to release him right away? You're going to get some lefty judge who's going to say he broke a window. Who cares?
That's a nonviolent crime.
Yeah. There is a 0% chance this guy is going to jail. You're not only going to have to catch him doing this 12 times, it may have to be 24 times before they do anything to him.
It's wild, wild west out here.
All right, Randy, let's do something we don't do that often. Let's move the blotter down to Orange County.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Johnny, this one is a cautionary tale. If you happen to own a $600,000 watch, and that's your thing, you might not want to brag about it on social media.
Social media bragging leads to nothing good.
Because an Irvine businessman posted about his $600,000 watch on social media and was later robbed at gunpoint for it.
You don't say.
For more, here's KTLA.
Now at 10:30, ambushed, beaten, and robbed. An Orange County businessman is attacked by a group of men who held him at gunpoint. The shocking crime caught on video. The thieves yanked the victim out of his luxury car and then ripped away.
Really? I thought he would have been driving a compact.
No Camry for him.
Then ripped away his high-end watch.
He was badly beaten, but says he's speaking out in hopes of preventing others from becoming targets of crime. Chris Wolf live in Irvine with the story. Chris.
Yeah, Micah, share. It's quite a story. It happened last night at this parking garage behind me as the victim was heading home. Authorities are now warning, be very careful about posting on social media.
Especially if you're bragging.
And you know what else happened?
What's that?
After they stole his watch and he had an appointment to meet with the news media to talk about it, showed up late.
Because you could be leaving a trail of breadcrumbs leading criminals directly to you.
You know, this is like they tell you. It's not a good idea to post pictures of yourself on vacation while you're on vacation, because you were telling everybody in your social circle and maybe their friend's social circle that you're not home right now.
Wait to do it until you get back.
Security cameras at an office building in Irvine capture a blitz as 3 hooded, masked, armed thugs ambush their victim, pulling him from his driver's seat and beating him as he tries to put up a fight on the ground. The attackers repeatedly pistol whip the man as they snatch their prize and jump into a getaway vehicle off screen, described as a light-colored SUV.
Yeah, they knew exactly who this guy was and they knew what they were going for.
And it sounds like they beat the living hell out of him, too.
They did.
So what were they after? The victim's Richard Mille sports quartz watch, valued at nearly $600,000.
Look, this man is a victim, and I hope he gets the justice that he's entitled to, and nobody should be having to be put up with that kind of violence just because they're walking to and from their business. That being said, who buys a $600,000 watch?
That is the craziest thing I've heard in a long time.
That is obscene. Again, he's the victim here. I feel bad for him, but also that's a colossal waste of money.
If he were to find a bride out of a catalog and purchase them from another country, and he had the bride on his arm, the watch would still cost more.
The victim's Richard Mille sports quartz watch, valued at nearly $600,000. He spoke to us from the crime scene, but does not want to be identified.
Oh, now he wants to be private.
He says the strangers immediately pulled up to his parking space, blocking him in, and then pounced.
I'm in the car. Yeah. I'm trying to hold the door with my both hands, and at the same time trying to figure out the lock button.
But you're nervous.
I'm nervous.
Most chilling is what we cannot.
By the way, this is how you could tell this guy was in Irvine. He doesn't even know how to lock his car.
If he was in LA, that's the first thing they would teach him at the dealer.
And at the same time trying to figure out the lock button.
But you're nervous.
I'm nervous.
Most chilling is what we cannot hear because the footage is silent. The thieves were getting impatient.
The guy with the white hoodie was sitting right on my face and screaming, "Shoot him, shoot him." The guy with the black hoodie, he tried to clock the gun. I just heard clocking back and forth.
You think his gun jammed?
That's what I saw in the security footage.
Incredible.
Or they were just trying to scare you. Maybe they were going to murder him for his watch. That's quite a big payday.
Oh, no, I think they were perfectly willing to murder him.
Incredibly dangerous individuals. They were ready to shoot you.
Ready. I don't know how I'm alive right now.
A major misstep, however, may have been posting about that expensive timepiece on social media.
With social media.
Like, what was the point of that one?
Well, he was trying to get chicks.
Hey, look at my $600,000 watch, and my Instagram post has my location tagged.
I wonder what he's posting now with no watch. Let's see, what time is it today? Oh, it's 3 hairs past a freckle.
A major misstep, however, may have been posting about that expensive timepiece on social media.
With social media, even if your account is private, you're still having other people view your social media. So if you're showing expensive items, it could draw the attention of a thief who wants to take that item.
Take a close look. One of the hooded culprits is not wearing a mask, which may have fallen off during the struggle. The victim is now putting up his own money, offering a $50,000 reward for any information.
Okay, so once again, this guy is turning this story into him bragging about how much money he has.
A $50,000 reward. What did he have to hawk his pinky ring?
Leading to the capture of the 3 men who attacked and robbed him. Anyone out there with information should contact Irvine Police. Live in Irvine, Chris Wolf, KTLA 5 News.
So there you go. We don't hear him often, but there is a very dangerous crime that happened in Irvine, California, in Orange County. And the lesson is, if you're going to buy incredibly gaudy crap, don't post about it on social media.
How much you want to bet he was wearing a tracksuit while he was wearing the $600,000 watch? You ever see the movie Friday After Next that Ice Cube made? I'm picturing a guy that looks like the guy that owns the Holy Moly Donut Shop. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Ken. Ken, hello. Ken, are you there, sir?
Yes. Am I there?
You're here.
Hello. Okay. Yeah, you know what? Hey, guess what? I got a bunch of gold bars buried in my backyard. Let me advertise that on Facebook and see what they come out and look at of that. How stupid are people?
Yeah, I don't know the impulse. I do know that people like to brag about whatever it is that they own. And you see this with not just jewelry, but you see it with automobiles. If someone buys a new automobile, they brag about it. if they go on a luxury vacation, if they sit in a first-class airplane seat. People like to brag about what they have. And it's a human impulse that's been around since the beginning of time. But you really see this on not just social media, but you see it on reality television, where people are on these programs and they talk about how wealthy they are, what they own, how many wealthy friends they have. And I think there's just an impulse out there for everyone and their brother to do the same thing. And it's dumb because you're asking to get robbed.
Yeah, you can't fix stupid.
Nope. Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Let's go to John in L.A. John, hello.
Hey, John. I love your show. Thank you for just coming on our air. This is it's fun, it's funny, it's educational, and I learn things. So anytime they say so many men or an individual, I think we all know who they're talking about. It's a pattern recognition that people. There's a very important underlying lesson here, and I do have background and training to try to. I've always been that way, John. I always understate what I have and what I own and what's going on in my life. I've always been that way, even as a young man. I guess lessons learned from training that I have. But, until we start calling this out, it's going to continue to happen. If you were a ground squirrel and the first thing you do when you come out of your little hole, you look up, you know where the predators are and you know who they are. Why are people kind of pretending, whether it's the news, whether it's even the victim, he knows who they were. Why does he not describe them? Is he told not to? We don't know, right? But kind of fed up with it or two. And most people are shaking their heads right now going, yeah, we need to identify who these people are and start calling them out, because I'm tired of people getting hurt and killed. I've always been a sheepdog, and this stuff really bugs me. That's why I have to turn off the news, and you're pretty much the only show I listen to, because you do give me some humor. You make me laugh sometimes out loud. So I want to thank you for that, you and your partner there.
Well, thank you so much for the call. And last week we did a story, I forget which one it was, Randy, where they were asking for help. They had pictures of the person they were looking for. They had a physical description of the person they were looking for. They were asking the public for help on how to find this person. They needed help because they didn't have the person in custody. They were looking for them, but they wouldn't release the photograph that they had on file.
Oh, that was the stabbing on LA Metro. Metro wouldn't release the video because Fernando Dutra only likes to have positive news about his organization. So they want the public's help. They have video of the stabbing, but they won't show you who the suspect is because they don't want Metro to look bad.
Which is totally insane. Political correctness is standing in the way of them solving a crime. And if you are so politically correct that you are willing to allow a crime, a brutal crime, to go unsolved so that you aren't seen as racist, or you aren't seen as classist, or you aren't seen as fill in the blank, you need to go find a new job. Because the people who run Metro are supposed to make sure that Metro is clean and safe for everyone to use. And if it's not clean and safe for everyone to use, then you have failed at your job. And if a crime does occur and you withhold information that is salient information at finding that person so we can charge them and convict them and put them in prison so they can't do that to someone else, and so that they're punished for the crime that they already commit, then you're a whack job. And it's time for you to stop using your power and influence to hurt innocent people, because that's what you're doing. We have one more hour coming up on The John Phillips Show. Don't you go anywhere.